I end up in this space, and literally I've never held an 8 to 5 job because my job kept on pushing me to different parts of the country at the time. Then I won a few trips. It was almost like a privilege. When we were in the newsroom, it was like a privilege to get a trip and you on the plane going somewhere. I remember the very first trip through my employer. That was New Vision. It's a newspaper, and I had to go to Nairobi and do some training around HIV vaccines, and it was exciting. Then another time I had to go and study science reporting in Namibia, and that was also very, very exciting. But then eventually I left and joined an HIV fellowship program because I used to cover a lot of health, and I picked interest in health because my entire network was full of these medical doctors and stuff. And so I thought I need to understand their language. And so I left the fellowship program and I was attached to World Vision International. So when I got into World Vision International, I think I started living my childhood dream. Because first of all, the program that I was first attached to was based in both, we were running a project that was in 2 countries. It was a research project and it was hosted within Uganda and Zambia. So it meant that sometimes we'd have meetings in Uganda, other times we'd have meetings in Zambia. And I did that work for about 15 months and I got an offer to support the Africa region. And that's when my travels started. Wow. I traversed Africa to all kinds of corners and then would have global meetings. So I really used to travel a lot and accumulated miles. So when I would accumulate my miles, I would go for, I would get reward tickets to the US. I have siblings who live in the US, so I always looked forward to accumulating my miles and going there. And that kind of gave me a different perspective and outlook to life. And I remember when I was 29, there's a time I was asking myself the whole meaning around life and understanding things to do with vision, mission. I am a Christian and I was asking myself, so do I need a different vision and mission for my spiritual life, for, my relationships, for my money? It was very, very confusing. And I tell people I had one of those amazing experiences. And it was those amazing experiences when I had a voice that was simply instructing me to, lead a life that demonstrates the virtues of a true Christian lady, dedicated to my commitments, doing quality work and positively impacting those that I interact with. And then I discovered that I was an encourager. Wow. Now, discovering that I was an encourager, that is something that anchored my being. Because I started living every day knowing that I'm supposed to encourage someone, and that became the journey. And of course, I got to a point of asking myself, if they say that your gift opens up the world to you, how does encouragement then open up that gift? Because now I was beginning to say, yes, if I'm going to live a fulfilling life, I must do it in the space of encouraging. But I was asking myself, how do you charge for encouragement? You know what I mean? You're simply asking, will you step out and go and begin asking people to charge them for encouragement? But anyway, I carried on with life. And at some point, I did read a book by Jack Canfield called The Success Principles. That was, I think, 2010. When I read his book, it's one book that changed my life around, caused my mind to do a lot of thinking. And I thought, wow, if a book can do this to me, one day I will have to attend a live session. And true to that, in 2015, I signed up for a session with him, online session, to be trained as a Success Principles trainer. And I traveled to the US. And while there, first of all, I met very accomplished people. And I was thinking, these guys are very accomplished, but they're in this space trying to grow themselves. So what am I doing with myself? And it's during that time that I did a lot of introspection and asked myself, do I want to continue in the workspace? And 2 weeks after that event, I told myself, okay, the next contract I am signing is my last contract in the workspace. And that's how I exited World Vision to go and pursue purpose. So that became an exciting journey. And with that, I ended up in a business class because I was telling myself, I've never run any form of business. How am I going to go and run my own entity? And that's where now that story started from, that there are no barriers to entry, anything goes. I became angry about it. And when we had the very first class of coaches trained under, I trained with a school called, an academy called Coach Masters Academy. At that time in Uganda, we had about 5 coaches that we knew of, 4 of them under the Strathmore Business School. And then there's another one, a lady that started Coach Africa. I think the very first coaching company in Uganda. That's how the whole system started. And so for us, when we came on board from Coach Masters Academy, there were 6 of us in Uganda. So myself and my colleague, Joseph Ajal, we decided, how then do we kind of get our coaching community together? Now, what is very interesting, the universe conspires. At that time, the coaches in Strathmore Business School were also busy wondering, how do we start an ICF chapter? So we convened a meeting, and when we convened this meeting at that time, I was the only one that was registered with ICF. And so we said, so why are we having this meeting? We better align ourselves in order to have legal meetings. So the first thing, all of you sign up for ICF. So we immediately had 5-6 people signing up, and that's how we started. And I guess that's how the momentum picked up. We started reaching out to people that we knew were coaches, and we said, hey, we are coming up with a chapter. Can you please sign up? And in 2 months, we had the numbers, because all they needed was 20. So we had the numbers.
So the 6 that signed up, did they become the committee?
The committee was drawn from the
rest of it.
one that we are busy discussing the formation, because myself, the Vice President, Dr. Peter Kimbowa, the Secretary, Josephine Mukumbia, and Joseph Ajal, we are part of that. Then we had our Treasurer, Samuel Mogeza, that came on board later. They were part of the people that were kind of mobilizing, because the other thing is that we have Stanbic Bank in Uganda. I think that's Standard Bank. That's what they are known for outside Uganda. They had quite a number of coaches that they had trained, in-house coaches, I think 30 of them. So we knew we could reach out to them and say, hey, can you also sign up? So we had a couple of their coaches signing up, and then there were a few coaches from other academies, people who had done like the Strength Finder, and so we're reaching out to them and saying, hey, can you sign up, and we start our own chapter. Sure. And that's how we've grown.
You have done amazing stuff in actually launching coaching industry in Uganda. I'm sure if it wasn't that initiative, it was going to take for a very, very long time. Don't you think so, Mishti?
Absolutely. I think your journey is so incredible. You know, from that childhood desire to travel and to experience, and then finding your own gifts, and how to, really utilize the gift of encouragement, and then to create a business enterprise around that. So that itself is very, very, very enriching in terms of your whole journey. So I was very curious to ask you, this desire to travel and connect with experiences, how does that help you as a transformational coach?
Wow. Interesting question, Misty. It almost feels like I'm in a coaching I'm in a coaching session. I don't think it's something I have ever really connected the dots. But when I think about them, I do transformative coaching. And what that means is that you're trying to anchor whatever happens around you. Your mind travels. Come to think about it, the mind just goes on a journey that is just exploring things within you. And so for me, it's the amazing bit about it is the fact that I've had an opportunity to actually coach people beyond my country. So it's always a journey where, first of all, the academy that I trained with is a global academy, and I'm fortunate enough to also be on the faculty that trains. And because we are fully online, it means like at any one moment, we have a global class. You have a global classroom that has people from different parts of the world. You have a class that has people from Uganda, South Africa, India, name it. You're all there. You could have like 30, 40 people in a class, but representing all the continents. And that is really an amazing journey. And for me, just being able to observe and see how human beings relate and interact and how we think, and getting to that point where you realize the mind is such a beautiful tool, an amazing tool that, if you give an opportunity to travel, it gets its own experiences, and we learn how to operate intuitively. And I think that's where our biggest power lies. It lies within that intuitive nature that is drawn on the inside of us. And that is something that we always need to kind of bring out to the forefront. I have never related the two, but maybe for me that's what causes the excitement in the conversations, that at any one time when I'm engaging a client, I'm thinking, wow, where are they going to travel to? Because some of them have actually used analogies of travel, and it's really exciting. Sometimes they're in a plane. Sometimes it's a train. Sometimes, they're just on the road and thinking which kind of vehicle are they driving, which pedal do they want to step on. And it's really an exciting thing.
Wonderful.
Wow.
I'm very curious, Sam. I just want to ask, actually, I'm getting very excited talking to you, Joan. There's so many things that you're sharing are inspiring me a lot. So I'll just ask a quick question and then hand it over to Sam. So you spoke about intuition, and I was reading about your profile, and you said that you really like helping people connect with their source. So is intuition and source connected?
I guess they are connected. When you think about intuition, it's connecting to a higher power, your higher source. That's the way I look at it, because it's more of you're bypassing your logic. So in your bypassing your logic, what are you tapping into? Because I think that's the benefit of coaching, where yes, everything that you know how to do, you've done it, but you're not getting the breakthrough that you're looking for. You've done everything by the book, but you're still stuck. The scenario where you get to, and probably you have an opportunity to just listen to yourself and say, hey, what is happening? And that's why usually when I'm engaging my clients, when I'm contracting, I even ask them, what's your best thinking time? So that I know I can prepare for that time, well knowing that, yes, my client's thinking time is more at this time. I have clients that have given time in the night, because you're thinking, okay, fine, that's the best time that they are able to engage. And so it is something that I really always look forward to.
Wow.
Okay?
Wow.
Where you know that you can engage with the people in their best thinking time, so that they can tap into their source, but also intuitively, that's when the voice would be, you'll be alert to be able to say, what's happening there? And I will tell you something. I have had I think my weirdest coaching scenario was when somebody went into a trance in the middle of a coaching conversation. And I had never experienced anything like it. And I said, wow, what is going on here? But I just said, well, let it be, let the person settle with whatever it is that they're experiencing. And then when they settle in, and it was a very beautiful moment to see and connect with the person. So probably they were connecting with the higher source at that moment.
And do you think you have reached a state where coaching is well understood in Uganda, or do you think there's still a lot of educating and promoting and developing that needs to be done? Are you uncovering other coaches that exist that you didn't know that they exist inside companies? And maybe just following up on that, if you can share with us your kind of programming that you are driving for the benefit of coaching in Uganda through the ICF chapter.
Okay. Thank you so much. I think if I'm to just go by the statistics, the fact that I said we only have 4% of coaches in Africa, that shows you that there is very little that is known about coaching.
Mm.
In the corporate space, yes. But you'll find something that is really amazing, that even now, really more intriguing per se. Even now, you go into these workspaces and you find people asking for coaches. And then when they begin describing what they are looking for, you realize that their expectations are of a mentor. Okay? That's why in any coach training, you have to first understand what other disciplines contribute to human potential. And we know that these disciplines really are the kind of probably mindsets that a coach will come on board with. Either they will come heavily skewed to mentorship, or someone is coming on board as a counselor, or someone is coming on board as a trainer, or someone is coming on board as a mentor. So when it comes to this intervention that promotes learning, then it's an opportunity for us to teach people. And what I found kind of sometimes disturbing is the fact that, yes, probably that gatekeepers of coaching should have been the human resource professionals. But they themselves are often confused about what it means to be a coach. So they will begin talking and you realize what they are talking about is mentoring. And in my setting in Uganda, coaching, at least the people in my generation, what used to happen is that when you are failing at a subject, then they will say, go for coaching. Coaching meant that you go to your teacher to give you extra lessons so that you can grasp the things that you're failing to grasp. So that's the background of coaching as a discipline and what we relate it to. Of course, we also know coaching in the space of sports. So sometimes when you introduce yourself and you say, oh, I'm a professional coach. Oh, which sport? Which sport is it that you're that you're coaching people in? But ultimately, I think we've been in Uganda, what we've been very deliberate about is to say, how can we drive coaching? We had kind of a mega launch. We were very proud of ourselves because we had such a hyped event. We had media coverage in there with some of the big corporate companies supporting us. But then we also went into some collaboration with the Human Resources Managers Association of Uganda. So the buzz is there. There's a bit of conversation around that. And the indicators really are more of, we see calls for proposals. When you have requests for proposals for coaching services, and they're beginning to say they want accredited coaches, or they want accredited coaches, and then they begin saying you must be part of a professional body. And in this case, of course, the only professional body we currently have in Uganda is ICF. Then you know that you are moving in the right direction. So it's an interesting time to be a coach. And what I can say is that all eyes are on Africa because everybody thinks that's where the new space is. So it's good that we are having this conversation because probably as more training institutions come over because they are limited, as people begin to understand the need for coaching, then it is something. We are also having specific programs that we are undertaking as a chapter to continue growing the visibility of coaching. Just recently, we launched a program called Grow, and we are excited about it. There's an NGO called CivSource Africa. It's really dealing with the civil society that has partnered with ICF Uganda to offer coaching to their participants. 29 leaders, so they are representing 29 entities, really, plus their networks. So the idea here is, as coaches grow through this one-year program, it's a mentorship program. In there, we've also integrated, we've embedded coaching so that then as leaders, they can experience coaching as they grow through their management pipelines. Once they experience what coaching can do, then that difference gives you more ambassadors. One of the corporate companies that I celebrate is Unilever. Unilever had their training of the executive team as coaches in March of last year, just before the first lockdown of COVID in Uganda because of the COVID pandemic. So we went into a lockdown. But what happened is when the world was closed out, these leaders were able to engage, and they were engaging in coaching conversations. And their MD said that, in that year when we had COVID, their profits doubled. Now, if you have a leader like that who has experienced coaching and seen the results of coaching, that one is going to become a very good ambassador for the profession because people are always asking, what's the return on investment? So we need such case studies, because sometimes we don't even know how to explain. How are you going to explain how these processes that you're undertaking give you a return on your investment? And that's something that for me is exciting. Yeah.
And anything like coaches for coaches, there must be other coaches out there that want to be where you are, that really expect the chapter to pull them by their bootstraps and bring them to your level. Any initiatives like those? Or is just the networking that you are coordinating?
Please repeat the question. There was a bit overlap.
I was saying that there must be other coaches that are self-employed like you that are struggling to get access to assignments. So I was just asking, within your programs at the ICF Uganda, do you have programs that are geared to support those so that they can also grow and not think of going back into corporate looking for jobs? Because it's not an easy field to be in.
Wrong. I guess there's nothing wrong with going back to corporates looking for jobs, because there's also clear indication that corporate bodies are also beginning to see the need for internal coaches. So if somebody is comfortable offering their services as an internal coach, I wouldn't have any qualms with that, because then you know that inside that entity, they have somebody with the requisite skills to be able to support their people. But then what we've created within ICF Uganda, and this is a good practice that we replicated from ICF Kenya. You know that the beautiful thing of coming later on the scene, you have people to learn from.
Yes.
So we created our coffee chat sessions that happen every last Friday of the month. And what we do in that space is to just connect with each other. You know, we have a blend of informal engagement plus some kind of serious presentation that somebody might be sharing with us. And what we are seeing, that is creating for us an opportunity to bond. The other thing is that when we are working with the different subcommittees, the subcommittees within the chapter, we are opening up those spaces to see what is going on. And increasingly what we are seeing is that because the coaches are certainly limited, you're seeing coaches within the chapter on different coaching benches. So anybody who at the moment who might not necessarily be kind of benefiting per se would be someone who is not showing up. Because what we have seen, we've seen a couple of our entities benefiting from that. My own organization, Imagine Me Africa, at one point we had an offering. We ran an event at the beginning of every year called Dine and Dream, and we partnered with ICF Uganda coaches to offer pro bono coaching to all the participants at our event. We have another entity that called Strategic Engagement, again belonging to one of our coaches, that had a program that they were running with an insurance company, and they gave us visibility. Because when we signed a memorandum of understanding where we were saying, okay, fine, we are going to be part of your show. The only caveat is that only host coaches who have gone through some form of accreditation. So ICF approved program. So that when you're talking and you're bringing a coach on board, they're able to see what is going on. In one of these coffee sessions that I'm talking about, when we had one of them and we're talking about the Grow project that we are now undertaking for a year, one of the coaches that was there found another coach sharing her story. And it was such an amazing story, and said, hey, can you partner with us? Can you come on board and be our guest speaker, flag off the program? But what happened with that, this coach also offered free psychometric tests for all the leaders on the program. So there's a lot that is happening. At least now, because you see what happens when they reach out and they're asking for coaches, we kind of have a pool where you're finding these coaches. So you find them on different programs. You know, there's this program coming up, so you're likely to see familiar names. You go to another program, there are familiar names. So maybe if I'm to use this program as a call to action for our coaches out there that have not yet onboarded, because we know we are over 100 coaches, but we are now talking about 50% of those are in the chapter. They are missing out, and they shouldn't be missing out on what we have to offer.
Yes, wonderful. So that I like that. Before I hand over to Mish, just as a follow up, I like that because there are certain activities that need not be residing at the company's level or at the coach's level. They need to be residing with the association so that there is a justification for coaches to belong to the association. Through the association, that you're impacting transformation at the sector level. So that way the coaches also capitalize on that. I wanted to find out that whether you are just networking to know each other or you are doing a little bit more. So it looks like you're saying the clients, potential clients and potential members can call you in your office and then through that, then they get to be connected with the other stakeholders. So and then of course the other point I wanted to raise in the form of a question is, I'm sure you do share your progress and your activities with the mother body ICF. Is that are you getting some support there? Are you getting some inspiration there, or you just reporting progress?
No, there's a lot to celebrate. When I'm talking about the GROW, program, we actually won a grant of $5,000, and that is going into visibility activities, which is really exciting. So yeah, kudos to ICF Global. They put out a call, and when we read the call for proposals, we said, but we are ticking all the boxes. Why don't we just apply and see what happens? And they found us with a program that was in the pipeline. So the resources simply aligned themselves. We had already agreed with the Civil South Africa to say this is how we are going to go about it. And then there was this opportunity for the grant. We applied, and the highest amount that you could apply for was $5,000. So we went for the highest. So if they had said they have 10,000 or 20, I'm sure I would have still said, give it to us. We know how to use the money. So yeah, that is one of it's for us. It's really an exciting venture, as we get into that process. In terms of networking, I think we are still more at the point of networking because collaborations come with a certain level of trust. Just the way we keep on saying that we need to create trust and safety for our clients. I'm sure it's the same scenario. Now, some people comfortably talk about the collaborations they are having, others will not. And that's still okay. But somewhat you get to know, okay, these coaches are on this coaching bench. Like those on the Strathmore Business School bench, they are known because people have talked about it. But there are others because there's not a single person who will take up an assignment with a company and be able to give your offering alone. You get it? We are getting global assignments. So that means when you have that kind of global assignment, you can't do it alone. You're going to network. One of the things, the messages we are trying to put out there is to say, if you must collaborate on a project, yes, we cannot dictate who you're going to do it with, but it would be better if you identify somebody who is within the network. And by the way, the other thing that I've remembered, the beauty is now that we are organized, that there's a body that they come to. There are also things that are exciting that we are seeing. I remember I told you about Coach Africa as the first coaching company that was established in Uganda. And then when it was established, there's an entity from Netherlands called Coach Africa that reached out and said, hey, we are reaching out to you as the president. We want to network. We want to see how we can partner and do different things. And what struck me in that moment was the fact that they were also called Coach Africa. And I remember saying that, well, we have an entity here called Coach Africa. And they wrote back to say, is it Coach Africa Uganda? And I said, no, it's not Coach Africa Uganda. Actually, I think it was a Zoom call. I said, it's not Coach Africa Uganda, it's Coach Africa. And I said, maybe instead of engaging with us at this level, first engage with that team and see what is happening before we begin conversations, because we cannot say that we are ICF Uganda, we are dealing with Coach Africa when there's another entity here. It might be confusing. Now that marriage has birthed the Coach Africa Academy.
Wow.
So you can imagine within our 2 years of existence, there's an academy coming up as a result of being organized, and somebody from somewhere comes in and says, hey, we want to do some work with you as a chapter, but reading through what was happening, we connected them to Coach Africa entity. So I think they've done a merger, they've rebranded, and now they also have Coach Africa Academy. So for me, that's a very exciting thing.
Sure. Man, Mishti, over to you.
Yes.
This is beautiful.
Yes. Kudos to you, Joan, and for the fantastic work you've been doing. A lot of symbiotic relationships, a lot of synergy, a lot of strategic alliances. And so talking about roadmaps, I was also reading that, you work a lot with women journalists and help them create their career roadmaps. So I wanted to talk about that piece a little and understand your coaching experiences around working with women, some of their challenges, and how do you help them build career maps beyond the stereotypes, gender stereotypes and biases they encounter.
Wow. Well, I love that program, Women in News. It's housed by WANIFRA. WANIFRA is the World Association of Newspaper Printers and Publishers. So they have this program called Women in News that simply supports young career women to kind of break the glass ceiling and take up these challenging roles. And so it's been a journey that I started in January of 2019. And I've had so far 3 cohorts that I've supported. Those are 28 journalists that I've worked with. And usually what happens in this program is a very competitive program. Across different parts of Africa, Uganda being one of the beneficiaries. And again, it looks like I'm supposed to work on things that are starting, startup initiatives. When they came into Uganda, I was one of the coaches that they took on. We started off as 3 coaches. Then eventually the program said, okay, we've boosted a bit of numbers. Now you're at par with the others. So they retained me as the coach for these female journalists. And it's been amazing because it's interesting that when you think about the media, and I know much about it because I worked in the media before I stepped out to go into the NGO space, you realize that there's a lot of false power around journalists. And so their own insecurities are buried in there because you're always on the other side asking the questions. And then when you come before a coach, guess what? The roles switch. You're supposed to begin talking about yourself. And what I've realized with women, the things that are coming through very, very clearly is that even when they have the competence and they have like 70% of what it takes to go for a job, guess what? They will kind of step aside, and for the men, they don't care. If I understand 20% of what the role is, I will step in. That's what happens. The woman wants to almost get to a point where they have 90% before they can step in. And so some of the things that I've seen with these journalists is more of where they are saying, I need more courage, I need the self-confidence, I need trust. And sometimes the things are as simple as sharing those ideas in a meeting. And somebody is thinking, I thought I was going to be going outside my job description. So you see, they are bound by a document and fail to realize that the things that are going to help you to be noticed are things that are completely outside of the confines. Nobody praises you for what is expected of you. They praise you for things that they know you can offer. And I always say that one of my heroic stories out of the media is a female journalist whose interest was to become a prime news anchor in 5 years. And when we embarked on that journey, she hit her goal in 4 months. And for me, that was exciting. Wow. In 4 months. So our joke became, okay, your plan was 5 years. We've achieved it in 4 months. What next? So it's really exciting. 1 year down the road, she won the trophy for being the best news anchor in her television station. And for me, that was really exciting. So yeah, I'm enjoying the work with these young women. And in most cases, what they are realizing, they try out things. So they leave the sessions with their own mantras to remind them, okay, fine. Like one that stands out for me is one who now simply says, go for it. That every time something is scaring her, she remembers she told herself, go for it, go for it. So just 3 words, go for it, give her the energy. If she's fearing, she knows she made a commitment with herself. Another lady that we were working with, she comes from a predominantly male region in terms of journalists, and even the sources of information would say, I don't talk to women. And she kept on saying, my size, here I am, I'm a small woman, and then I'm here, this is what is happening. Now she has become the darling of that region in terms of media coverage, because she realized that she needed to step up. Nobody was going to fight her battles. So she had to agree and say, you know what, I know what I possess, and I'm going to show up in the world fully embracing who I am. I'm not going to look down upon myself, because it felt like that self-belief was simply exponentially growing the other side of her, that was really kind of emphasizing the self-limiting beliefs instead of stepping out. Yeah, so it's really an exciting program for me.
I completely resonate with some of the themes that you shared, Joan. Even in India, while we do a lot of work in the space of women leadership and gender sensitization, you see one common theme that's emerging is the fear to speak up in meetings because of the fear of judgment and the fear to show up completely, your potential, because a lot of them feel that if we show our power, we may be judged or we may not be accepted in the right way. So this work is fantastic, what you're doing as a coach and helping women really embrace their true potential. So is there a network issue?
No, we can hear you.
Joanne's screen is frozen, is it? Joanne, can you hear me?
Can you hear us, Joanne? Yeah, I think she's muted, but I also can see that her screen is frozen. Let's hope she resolves that. But this is quite very inspirational. There's so much takeaway from what Joanne is sharing with us. It looks like they are destined to grow at such a pace, and maybe the space has always been there, and they are really rightfully occupying that space. Welcome back, Joanne. We saw your screen was freezing, and we are just reflecting on what you have just said, and we are saying that, I'm saying, it looks like the space has been there open for you to just occupy it. So you might think that there are some miraculous things that are happening, but maybe the space has always been waiting to be occupied. And you're occupying it at the right time while you are also yourself as coaches are ready. And this is wonderful news. And I'm almost inclined to say that you may have to set yourself some stretch targets, because the baseline is so much there. The fundamentals are in place, and perhaps there might be many more other clients out there in the form of sectors, and that you might just want to address, and maybe collaborating with organizations like PwC and those accounting firms to find out of their own research work where strategic niche exists, where you can come and help the process of transformation, change management, and also looking at vulnerable societies. You mentioned women. I'm just thinking about remote communities that could be far from being reached and using technology. So I'm almost like feeling like I'm part of your chapter, and now looking into Uganda and say, where else are we needed? And yet I've never been to Uganda myself. But this is the story of Africa, not so?
Yes, it is. And when we are talking about those numbers of coaches, remember that we have a big pool of our coaches that are inside the organization.
Yeah.
When I talk about the 100, we have those that were sponsored by their organizations, and they are serving inside their organizations. So we are still a very small pool of coaches who are in the self-employment space. And I'm sure, for me, the key thing across Africa, let's learn to be collaborative leaders. Because as a coach, you are a leader. And that is the starting point. If we can bring our voices together and work on assignments together and do the debriefings together, there is a lot that we can offer the world. The challenge comes in when people don't even want to talk about the things that they are talking about. And I'm thinking, what if everybody got up the next day and said, we all want to offer, we want your coaching services. Are we able to reach out?
That's a good point you are raising, and that is exactly why we want this type of platform to grow, because with technology now you are not restricted. I mean, if the demand is there, and you can reach out to Mishti, to myself, to Kenyan colleagues, to other colleagues outside the world. It's a time in the world that coaches, as you said, are called forward as leaders and lead the way. And it looks like we get inspiration from the successes that we have achieved, but all of us as members of ICF or many other bodies, this can only be inspiration. And I've already forgotten that you only launched in 2019 because of so much achievements you are mentioning. But that's really great inspiration, and I think the leadership of the country must really take note of your arrival.
Definitely. And the need for shared vision, not just sharing initiatives and ideas, but the need to create a shared vision. I think that's what really brings in leadership. And that is something, Joan, you're already working towards in a very, very robust manner. So
how many more months how many more years do you have with your committee now? Sorry, Mishti.
That's completely okay. It's a very relevant question, Sam. So.
Well, we are at a point where we are busy looking at our bylaws because, I mean, as we are speaking, when you're busy founding, you're busy putting different pieces together. So it's a conversation that we are now having with the board to say what's the next agenda. So it's something that we want to look at the bylaws, see what is happening, and then take them to the AGM and begin having that conversation around that. But I'm happy we've laid a firm foundation. We can kind of pat ourselves on the back. We might wait for others to sing praises for us, and maybe we'll never hear the praises. So we better sing them for ourselves. And yeah, the opportunities are there. I'm a firm believer that the opportunities are enormous. It's still a virgin ground. So for the early adopters of coaching, let us wake up and be collaborative. That the time to try and think in a siloed way no longer works. We are now talking about a circular economy. So if you think you're going to do your things linearly and push out people, you will end up pushing yourself out.
And for you personally, what does it mean being an inaugural president of the ICF Uganda? Having started it and then became the inaugural president, what does that mean for you?
I think, like I said at the start, for me, it's been a humbling experience. First of all, you need to have insights into the board. I might sound like, okay, fine, here is a strong person, but I tell you that it's kudos to my board. I have a very amazing board. My secretary is the CEO of a big entity, Abbey Trust. My treasurer was the chief finance officer for the biggest bank in Uganda. So really, I am surrounded by the best brains that there can be. The vice president is somebody who has been in the leadership space for long. They started a program called the CEO Apprenticeship Program, and literally every CEO in Kampala knows him. So he can just, at any one time, he has somebody to call. And if you think you went through his hands to become CEO, you're bound to give him the favors that he's looking for. So in any case, for me, it was such a beautiful opportunity. And I can tell you that I've been leading two entities at the same time. And the ball game, this other side, is totally different from the other side. So I've had an opportunity to compare two entities where I am leading, and you're able to see what kind of headache you avoid when you have seasoned people around you, and the kind of headache you have when you have people around you who do not even have an appreciation for governance. And so for me, it's almost been like a journey of learn from what is supposed to be, and also learn from what you're supposed to streamline. And it's been an exciting journey. I think I've had the most exciting time of my leadership growth working with these entities. And certainly for ICF Uganda, there's a lot that I've been able to learn, because everyone has just been leveraging their key strengths and capabilities to serve the chapter.
Which are the major economic centers in Uganda geographically? Where are the most industries concentrated, and which are those centers?
You're talking about industries in Uganda.
Or let me say economic
I
activities.
need to say things that are politically correct. But what we can say is that I think when I look at our economy and thinking about it, of course, we have the oil and gas that is really popping up, and probably that's one area where we can leverage to offer our services, because it's all about exciting opportunities, but probably a lot of formation of systems and structures around it. We have the financial sector, which is relatively big, and of course you have government.
Yes.
Government has its own. It has its own style, so we've not yet. I'm not sure from the coaches how much we've been able to break through into government. Yes, we've done some work with government parastatals. Not very sure about what happens with the mainstream government, but again, when we get to that point where people are free to kind of talk about the assignments that they are doing, we'll begin generating relevant data. For now,
So you have a national imperative there to address in terms of how do you co-create, or how do you become partners in creating industrialization, or in starting industrialization in Uganda for the next 50 years. You can start, put that as a long-term objective, because
we need authentic leaders. We just need authentic leadership alone is enough to keep the current coaches busy.
Yeah.
If every leader decided to do a self-introspection and say, hey, how am I serving my community? How am I serving my ministry? How am I serving my initiative? Because sometimes the things that we see in the media are very frightening, extremely frightening. So we are saying, where have the leaders packed themselves? And maybe coaching conversations can become very comfortable for leaders.
Yes.
Uncomfortable, because it's going to surface things and say, am I really being true to the people I'm serving, or am I serving my own interests?
So leadership is a big theme to address in your environment, broadly. So I think I lost the. Are you there, Joan?
Yes.
Yeah, I was saying that, so leadership is a big theme to address through coaching.
Yes, it is. And collaborative leadership at that as well.
Beautiful.
And what I hear is authentic leadership as well. So with authentic, I think a lot of work needs to be done on the themes of covering, where a lot of professionals, a lot of leaders, they really mask themselves and don't really open up to their core strengths, gifts, and vulnerabilities. So any coaching practices that you use that help them go beyond covering and really bring out the authentic versions of themselves?
We have a few minutes to wrap up our conversation. This has been very inspirational. I'm really happy for your country that you have successfully launched the ICF chapter, which is really going to be the custodian of growing the coaching industry there. We mustn't forget giving details out to those who want to reach out to you. Maybe let's check out Joan and Mishti. But when you check out Joan, please give us contact details, how they get a hold of your chapter, and how do they get a hold of you, and what more do you need to assist you in the process of growing coaches and coaching and the ICF chapter. What would you say our conversation has brought up to the surface for you? What did we confirm for you, and what is the takeaway?
Sorry, my connectivity has played games.
Yeah, I was just saying that you can check out by reflecting on what you think we brought out to the surface, and what are you taking home, and then of course share the contact details with the viewers.
Okay. I think it was a beautiful conversation, I must say. And I'm glad that we are having this conversation to just say that, coaching is such a beautiful profession. It's a gift to the world. And let us embrace this gift. But what is clear for me now as we had this conversation is an understanding that the space is big and we need to collaborate because we are very few. If everybody woke up and decided that they want to utilize our services, how do we even leverage each other across the continent? How do we become collaborative in nature? And for the coaches, I think my clear call is that we need to keep growing. It's not enough to just get your initial accreditation and then you say, okay, fine, now that I have a paper, let me move around. There's a lot that we offer if we choose to grow ourselves. And as somebody who is in the space where I train coaches, I mentor coaches, it is something that I know I keep on saying how we all need this space. And I also receive mentorship on a continuous basis. So it's really exciting that we are in that space. I'm on LinkedIn, Joan Mugenzi, that's the quickest way to reach me. ICF Uganda is also on LinkedIn. It's also on Facebook. And at a personal level, it's very easy to reach out to me. You simply send an email to coach@imaginemeafrica.com. Wow. So that it is through that our coaches tend to connect a couple of different. So thank you so much for the opportunity to, hosting me. And it's unfortunate that we're having a bit of lag. So hopefully the conversation wasn't mad a little bit.
Beautiful, beautiful. Meshti, your closing remarks and checking out.
Yes, I would say, Joan, the robust energy that you bring to the table in terms of, just setting the foundation for the ICF chapter and growing and expanding itself is very, very inspirational. So for me, the checkout takeaway is about shared vision and collaboration because no one is as smart as all of us. So we need to think together and share opportunities where everyone can bring in the unique gifts and find ways to monetize those gifts through the power of coaching. So thank you so much, Joan, for taking our time. Thank you.
Right. My closing remarks is that through you, or in you, we have a true ambassador of coaching, which is your childhood dream. Has become in this way, and I think the work you are doing together with the Kenyan chapter there in East Africa is definitely going to benefit all the countries in the sub-region and in the continent as well. I mean, the whole idea is to really multiply ourselves, not only for our own countries, but for the profession globally. And we are grateful that ICF has given you the opportunity to establish this chapter in Uganda. And thanks to the colleagues in Kenya that assisted. I think it's your turn now to assist other neighboring countries to establish their chapter as well. Thank you so much for your time. I really learned a lot. And we look forward to hear more from you. We will definitely follow the ICF Uganda chapter page on LinkedIn and Facebook. And then, of course, pull us in if we can be of any assistance in your initiatives. Thank you very much, and our regards to all the members of the ICF Uganda chapter. You're doing great work. We will be looking forward to more successes. Thank you so much. That was our monthly applied professional and executive coaching 101 conversation, the show that puts spotlight on the coaches and their chapters and their countries and the continent in this regard. We look forward to the next one in September, when we will be talking to another ICF chapter, Nigeria to be specific, the president there. Looking forward to it. We see we are contributing in a small way to grow the coaching in Africa. And Mishti, thank you very much. I know we are also looking at having ICF New Delhi somewhere in towards the end of the year, I guess. We will confirm that as well. Thank you very much. Goodbye and be safe.
Bye.
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 Recording stopped.